Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Unstuck Pod. I'm here today with Shannon Vander Meulen from WaitWell, and I'm really excited to have her today and have her share her journey and more about the business. And great having her for a fun conversation. So, welcome, Shannon.
Excellent, Jamie. Thanks for having me.
So, can you do me a favor, please, for everybody who's listening, watching, tell them about you. So, like, where did you come from? What were you doing before? How did you end up where you are right now as a founder of a company? And let's talk about.
Well, it pretty much all happened completely by accident. It's really kind of a fluke that I'm sitting where I am right now. In 2014, I bought a business with my husband. So we actually bought something called a registry office. Depending on where your listeners are located, they probably go to a government office to renew their driver's license or to take a road test or something like that. In Alberta, we do all of that at a registry office, and we also do things like birth certificates. We can incorporate companies. We do all sorts of things at a registry office. And we bought one of those. So actually one of the busier ones in Alberta. And we always struggled with like, how do we match up people who are walking in the door with the right clerk who can help them? So you have seasoned clerks who've been doing this work for 20 years and they can do anything. They can incorporate a company, they can do a legal name change, like they know all of the stuff. And then you have people who've been there for a few weeks that really just know how to do a simple renewal on a car registration. And so matching people up with the right person and getting people in and out as quickly as possible is kind of the like how you make a successful registry office work. And we always struggled with that. And then of course in 2020 the pandemic hit. And when that happened, it was just mayhem. We got things got really slow and then things started to open up again in the summer of 2020. And all of the sudden, people had all of the services that they had put off doing. Everybody needed things done right away. And we had to figure out a way to keep people 6 feet apart. And so I had my one of my teenagers was working for us, and his job was literally to stand at the door and keep people, 6 feet apart and manage who was next in line. And I'm watching this and I'm thinking, and everybody's looking at their phone the whole time. They're just glued to their screens. And I thought, if only they could just join the line on their phone and we could send them a message. And then, of course, my service operations was like, and connect them with the right person and maybe ask them some questions while they're waiting and make sure they know what they need to bring with them. And that's kind of how WaitWell started.
No, I love it. That's the like what a great. I mean, it's funny, right? So many people look at the pandemic as being this awful, terrible thing, and I'm not. Doesn't mean it wasn't an awful, terrible thing. But I think what's fascinating is about how you saw an opportunity to do things way better in normal times as a result of this
Yeah.
unique, chaotic period that we were going through.
Well, it was a chaotic period, but I think it will look back on it also as this sort of inflection point where people became much more willing to try something new because it really blew everything up anyways, right? So, people were like, oh, so now I got to learn how to scan a QR code. Okay, well, I guess I better learn how to scan a QR code or else I'm not going to be able to get in line. The adoption of things like meal delivery services and Ubers and digital transformation across lots of service industries really took off during that period. And I think that's something we'll probably look back on as maybe one of the silver linings of COVID.
That's a good perspective. Okay, so let's leap forward. Okay, so you have this, I say, epiphany around, hey, wait, maybe there's a better way to do what we're doing. It happened 6 years ago as
Yeah.
at least an initial way of thinking. Let's fast forward to where you're at now. So you had the registry, right? So were people, so do you still do that, or is it now you're just doing it, like you moved on from that and now it's just WaitWell? How does this fit together?
Yeah. So we moved on from that in 2023. So from 2020 to 2023, I was running a very large, busy registry office in Alberta, as well as trying to get this startup off the ground. And in 2023, I kind of realized that it was probably time to make a decision about which one I was going to focus on. And so we were lucky to find a buyer who already had a lot of registry experience and was able to take that over with a very kind of smooth transition. So we let go of that in 2023. A lot of my heart is still in that space. I love going to one of our biggest markets that we sell into is DMVs in the US and other DMV like type. County offices, collectors, that kind of thing. And I love going to their conferences and chatting with those folks about service delivery and service optimization and what they're doing to make things more efficient. And so there's still I still feel a very strong connection to that space, but I am wholly focused on WaitWell. And we have a team of about um, 15 people right now. We've got a few extra bodies in the office right now because we've got it's summer, so we just started our internship program. All totally located in Calgary. So we're in the office. We do kind of a hybrid type work, but we're in the office 3 days a week and just really sort of enjoying growing the company into something a lot bigger than what it started as, or a lot bigger than my vision of it when I started it.
So before we get into that and your vision and where you wanna go and where you're at, is so do people have to look at their phones and figure out where they're allowed to sit and how they can come in and out of your office when they go? Just kidding.
We do have a visitor management component of the product. So you could use our product, for example, if you just need to keep track of who's coming in and out of the office, which we actually do as part of our SOC compliance.
Okay. Oh,
So we do
interesting.
have a we do, but we actually, to be honest, don't have a ton of visitors to our office because most of our customers are actually located, in the US or even in other areas of the world. So we don't actually see our customers face to face very often.
Yeah. No, and again, back to your point about, COVID, and one of the benefits was that everybody learned to communicate remotely in a much more comfortable way so that you could interact with people all over the place and have I mean, people had companies have had, customers all over, but I think it's, even easier to communicate with them now, more comfortable to communicate with them now, much the same way that
Sure.
you and I are without meeting in person. So
Yeah,
that's a
exactly.
great
But I think that's part of the reason why we really like having our people in the office too, is
mm,
that, especially the customer facing folks, they spend so much of their time on Google Meets or, maybe on the phone, but primarily Google Meets with their customers who might be located in, California or Rhode Island or Nevada. And so I think for them, having those few days a week where they come in and when they have, when we're doing Scrum or when we're doing, a training session or, an all hands meeting, just to be able to, like eat a piece of pizza beside the person that they're working with. I think that means a lot. I think it's great to really break up that remote
yep.
nature of work as well.
I agree completely. Especially after you work in a world that we were in, talking about the pandemic where people were separated. It's a good reminder that it's great to be around people. I actually think, to your point, the balance between the two is the sort of the best of all worlds. It gives you all the efficiency without losing touch of like humans. So very very good. I love it.
Sure.
So let's talk more about your where you want to go with this, right? So companies called WaitWell, so everyone's going to think about queuing up for in line, but is that all? Is there more? What, like, how do you think about this? What are the problems that you're solving, and where are you headed with?
Jamie, it's like you just got to like the crux of what we're talking about on a daily basis right now, which is like around positioning. Yeah, we started out as, it's kind of funny because my first business case was really like, there were other virtual queue systems out there. And so my partner really challenged me to say, okay, well, what's going to be different about our queue system? And my initial positioning was actually, we're going to be simpler than all the other queue systems. We're just going to be bare bones, very simple, easy to use. We're not going to have a lot of bells and whistles. The funny thing is that I would really say that where we ended up was exactly the opposite of that. What we ended up with was the most robust, the most configurable queue system on the market. And the reason for that is simply that we listen to our customers. So we would have customers that would say, they would just have very unique needs. Like, maybe we don't want people to join the line from home. Maybe we actually want them to have to be on site before they join. Can you make a feature that forces that? Maybe we want people to make an appointment and then we want them to check in when they arrive, but we only want that to be allowed within 15 minutes and we want the messaging to look like this. And so we really kind of leaned into these sort of being able to meet the needs of very unique service organizations. And what I've learned is that almost every service organization is really unique in their needs, but to do it in a way that we try to build everything as a feature so that it's available to everybody who comes onto the platform. So rather than building something for the state of Nevada or for, our CMP or whatever, would build it so that it was a feature that was available to. So we ended up with this like highly configurable, highly robust queue system. But then customers were asking for other things. So they would share with us, okay, okay, great. We have this great queue and booking system now. It's really configurable. It meets our needs perfectly, but we're working with this really archaic staff scheduling system and they don't talk to each other. So we built a staff scheduling system that interacts perfectly with the queue system so that when people are scheduled, it creates the availabilities and it's just all very seamless. So now we have a staff scheduling product. We had customers that would say to us, well, it's great that people can get in line or make an appointment, but sometimes they don't show up and it's because they have no, there's no accountability, there's no, they haven't paid anything yet. So we'd really like to be able to collect a deposit from them. So we built a payments. I already alluded to the fact that we have a visitor management module. And so, in a lot of ways, we've really kind of outgrown the name WaitWell because really what we are is a service operations platform. And so that, where are we growing next is really dealing with that sort of, I don't know, kind of existential question of like, who are we really? What do we really do? Because we don't really just get rid of lineups. And that is the easy thing to lean into. Everybody understands lineups. Everybody hates them. It's really easy to talk about being a company that gets rid of lineups, but really at the heart of it, what we actually do is optimize service operations.
This is like, sorry, you have my brain going a million miles a minute when you're saying this. This is fantastic. It's it's exciting and interesting. So let's talk about, you've gotten to this really interesting place where you said we've listened to customers, and almost everyone will tell you listen to customers, which is
That's
good.
so true. Everybody says that.
No, well, yeah, of course. Listen to customers, and then, so where's the balance? So where's the balance?
Mhm.
Where's the happy place between listening to customers and reacting to those customers, or listening to customers and stopping? I imagine it sounds like you're going through this, you're living this kind of challenge or question as part of this thing on a daily
Yeah.
basis too.
I think that's a really good point because you really do have to balance your vision for your company and the product roadmap that you've set out against what customers are asking for. Like there's a famous quote from Henry Ford about, if I'd listened to my customers, I would have built a faster wagon or whatever.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, sure.
it's often cited, and I think that can be interpreted a little bit too precisely. I don't think that the meaning of that is don't listen to customers. It's so important to listen to customers, but you do also have to balance where you're headed as a company because otherwise you can go down a rabbit hole of, okay, so this year, what did we do to the product roadmap? Well, we didn't actually advance the product roadmap, but we created 870 unique features. And those are both really important. And so, I think our development team really makes a concerted effort to divide their time. Every year at the beginning of the year, our strat plan, we divide, a percentage of our time that we're going to spend on, customer related requests and enhancements versus moving our product roadmap forward. Those two things are really important. And you're right, they can be somewhat in opposition to each other sometimes.
So let's start first, because you've sort of thrown out there, this is a challenge area, or like a thing I'm trying to figure out. I want to I We can come back to it, but I wanted, obviously you got lots of customers and they're asking for things and they like you and they want more. So there's a lot of really, really good. So let's talk more about what's gone really well as you've done this, because you had a vision, you built at least your initial simple product that's become a lot less simple over time, and that's okay, and you've started to gain adoption. So let's talk about how have you done that? What's worked really well for you? Yeah, I'd love to hear it. I think everyone would.
Well, what's worked really well for us is that, I don't think that I'm the best at really anything. I'm not the best copywriter. I'm not the best at branding. I'm not the best at, product management. But one thing that I do think that I have a really good skill at is identifying people who are going to be a really good fit with our culture. And, or maybe it's just luck. Maybe I've just been really lucky, but
I doubt
we
it.
have hired some really, really fantastic people who've been with us like for almost from the beginning, some of them. And that's made all of the difference in the world. We made a concerted effort really early on that when we bring on a customer, they are matched up with an implementation manager and that person stays with them throughout. In fact, they often get involved kind of at the end of the sales process once we have a good sense that the customer is going to come on board. We might even still be working through the SaaS agreement or some, the contract or whatever, but we'll bring them on. We have a very well defined processes for implementation for mapping out the customer workflow, and they stay with them throughout. And then that team is also very integrated with product development, so they meet on a weekly basis to go through all of the items that are, the customer requests and the other development items that are in the queue for development, and kind of hash it out. Like what um, what needs to happen first, what's more pressing, what's more critical. But because those people really have the voice of customer and they really understand the needs of the customer and they are able to see similarities between customer A and customer B or even industry A and industry B, we're able to, I think, make really intelligent decisions about what needs to be developed next. And I think that honestly, I really believe that that's been a huge key to our success because we've been able to really keep customers on for a long time. We have a really amazing retention rate, really low churn, and it's mostly because we just do a really good job of, and when I say we, I'm speaking mostly of the implementation team, of like really listening, like really understanding when somebody's asking for a feature, why do they need it and how does that impact their daily work? Because, a lot of times you can actually solve what they're asking for. We have an existing feature, or we have a customer who has exactly the same need who's addressed that in a different way. But really good listening is really important. And then having that implement, like the customer facing people be really closely interfacing with product development, I think is really key.
Well, and I think also what I hear from you is that you're very true to your roots as an organization around sort of enhancing the service, like the experience of users, the experience of customers, right? That's your entire product, your whole solution is built around making that whole experience better. And you do the
Yeah.
same thing as you talk to your customers about using your product, which is you're not just talking it, you're walking it as well, which is a fantastic extension of the kind of the root of the brand and who you are, which is great. So
Yeah.
does
I mean,
that
I've always
mean
been really in love with process, right? Like it's just,
yeah,
everybody's been somewhere, like you've probably been somewhere this week where the service was just terrible or where, it was just really inefficient. Like, whether you're getting your tires changed or you're picking up a subway, like it's impossible as a consumer not to notice when things aren't running optimally. But, there are some people, and I'm one of these people who, my brain can't stop there. It doesn't stop at, oh, this is terrible or this could be better. It automatically goes to, I wonder if they moved this part of it first, or, I wonder if they streamlined this, or, is there an opportunity to digitally transform that aspect of the process? I can't help it. That's where my brain is. Lucky for me, there are lots of other people like me, and we found some really great ones to be part of the WaitWell team.
oh, I love it. The problems you're very, very clear the kind of problems that like you're a problem solver, but it's how do I extend that out? I think that's great. So okay. So when a customer comes, when I say you're all over them, I mean in a good way, like to help them get them set up to really make sure that their experience is positive and up and running. How do people find you? How do they know that you're the ones that they want to talk to and work with?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's actually my job. So I'm the chief marketing officer here at WaitWell. That's kind of the role that I sort of naturally fell into. And so, my job, I think of my job as kind of two main things, which is, generate leads and, the brand awareness piece as well. We started going to conferences way back in 2021 when the world very first started opening up. It was super awkward those first few ones that we went to. Everybody's like, "Really? We're going to be in the same room with people in real life?" And
Uh,
like we don't know if we should shake hands or not. So it was a little bit awkward to start with. We saw really early on that people were just really eager to get back in person and really eager to make those human connections. And we just find that the opportunity to talk with somebody who is, a potential user for your software, for example, somebody whose work is related to the challenges that you're trying to solve with your software, and just being able to ask them open-ended questions like, what keeps you up at night? Or, if you had a magic wand and you could solve one problem, what would it be? Sometimes the answers aren't what you want or expect them to be, but it's just so important for us for understanding the direction that our customer needs to go and what the true pain points and challenges are of our ideal customers. So that's one thing that I think is really important about being in person. The other thing that I think is important about being in person, I think we're going to see this more and more as AI evolves, is that just trust, right? Like it's just so difficult to build trust in a digital world. And so when you can, and a lot of it has to happen digitally. We can't be everywhere all the time. We can't be physically in every room. But I think sort of mirroring your digital presence and your in-person presence in a really effective way is really important. So I would say going to conferences, trade shows, any opportunities that we have to meet people in person is really, really important for us. And then, of course, showing up digitally as well, and just really trying to understand where your customers hang out. What do they read? What media do they consume? Where do they go to get information? How do they make buying decisions? Who do they trust? How do they find other people like them that they trust? Those things are really important as well. And so we spend a lot of time on that.
Love it. Okay, so this is I mean, there's so many questions, but we can't go on and on and on and on. So let me do it differently. I'd like you to first, if you don't mind, if you've gone through this journey, right? You bought the registry, you sold the registry, you started this business, seeing all these opportunities. So you've run multiple businesses. This one being a very specific, I say, startup SaaS. It's a lot of people interested and focused on this. What advice would you give others who are watching, listening about what they need to make sure they do to have the kind of success and progress that you've seen so far?
Well, the first thing I'd say, Jamie, is like it hasn't been all success. Because I think one thing that a lot of successful entrepreneurs don't spend a lot of time talking about is their failures.
Hmm.
So, in between the registry and WaitWell, I had another business, which was a total failure. I lost a lot of money. I lost a lot of sleep over it. And, sometimes when I'm having a day where I'm, not feeling so positive, I complain to my husband and my business partner. Oh, why did we do that? If only we could go back in time and not do that. And, he always says the same thing to me, which is that we learned so much from that experience. And not only that, but we actually made connections. So the developer that we ended up partnering with on WaitWell, who's our co-founder, we met through that. So we wouldn't have even met. So literally that had to happen in order for WaitWell to happen. But the other thing is that I learned so much about marketing. I would love to go back in time and do it all over again because I think I could actually probably be more successful this time. We learned about, red tape. We learned about, regulations. We learned about, creating a brand. I learned so much through that experience. And I think most successful entrepreneurs, if you ask them, have a failure in their back pocket as well. They don't just have successes. And they did embrace those failures, maybe not 100%. There's of course nobody likes to fail or to lose money. But they got the learning that they needed out of it and they failed forward. And I think almost every successful entrepreneur that I know has that experience as well. And I don't think we talk about that enough.
That that is such a fantastic way to answer. Just so great, like such a great way to share it because it's so easy. Oh, I did this or do this. It's like, yep, made
That's
lots of
fun to talk
mistakes,
about, right?
learn from it. Well, no, but I no, but I, it's honest. It's honest and good and real. And I think that that's why you're that's why things are working. Okay, so please do me a favor. Can you tell everyone who's watching, listening, how to find you, reach you, get in touch?
Sure. Well, our website is waitwellsoftware.com. We're on LinkedIn, so love it if you'd follow us there. And I'm also on LinkedIn, and it's just Shannon Vander Meulen, and I'm pretty easy to find.
Amazing. So, Shannon, thank you so much for your time. And everybody who's listening, watching, thank you again for watching and listening. And until next time, we'll see you.
Thank you, Jamie. It was a pleasure.